Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, I am so blessed to live in North Texas. I can't think of a more vibrant community in the entire country, and I have the privilege of interviewing the CEO of North Texas Commission next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I am so privileged to call DFW my home. I remember when I moved to Dallas in 1992 to take a job at Fox 4 in Dallas, we were market number 8. We are now market number 4, and there's no bodies of water to keep us in. We can keep going north and south until we're the 3rd largest market. And we're going to be talking to a real influencer here in Dallas, Chris Wallace. He's the CEO of the North Texas Commission. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
And I just had the privilege of watching a Rotary speech that you gave, and it really gave me a sense of the history of the organization. So why don't you start at the beginning? When did it begin?
Yeah, the North Texas Commission was established just right around 52 years ago for the purpose of getting DFW Airport up and running. There was a large regional need for, believe it or not, back then a regional hub airport. Today it's the economic engine for the region, one of the largest in the state, obviously, one of the most largest and busiest airports in the world. And that's a huge asset for us. And so the commission took the lead to help market the airport for carriers, passenger and freight, to help bring the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth together.
Yes.
To really establish this need. And several public and private sector leaders who were the original board members of the commission who saw that need. And, today we're still tackling the region's greatest challenges.
Amazing. I think there's a famous quote from Amon Carter that if he was going to go to Dallas, he would pack a lunch because he didn't want to spend any money in Dallas. So we have been adversaries, but the communities need to come together to do big things like the World Cup and the Super Bowl.
Our region, probably unlike any other region in the country, relies heavily on collaboration and cooperation. We are, as you mentioned, the 4th largest region in the country. We will here in probably just a few years change places with Chicago to be number 3. About 8.3 or so million people today per the latest census. Certainly by 2030, which we're already preparing for that census to make sure we have a complete count. Make sure we get that congressional seat that we didn't get this last time around. Make sure that the allocation of federal and state dollars for our region. But we will soon, it'll be New York, L.A., and the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Yeah. So it's, we have a lot of assets here to make sure we maintain our economic competitiveness, but we also have a lot of challenges. And those challenges bring a lot of opportunities.
Yes. Let's pull up your website. And as we scroll on the website, you're an advocacy organization. So your role is, I know you're going to be spending some time in Austin here. Tell us more about your role and how do you work to bring more opportunities to Texas?
We, obviously the economic competitiveness is certainly the key to sustain that for our region. We do that a lot through advocacy. So we lead the region's advocacy in D.C. and in Austin. We have a team in both. I'll be in Austin later today for our start of the session. It's 140 days. We have a comprehensive set of regional priorities that have been approved by our board, public and private sector leaders representing our 13-county region. And everything from economic development tools to business competitiveness issues, local control issues, infrastructure, education and workforce pipeline issues, to make sure that the legislature, in terms of a regulatory, from a business friendly, from a local government friendly standpoint, making sure they understand what our needs are here in North Texas. We have $2.7 trillion GDP in Texas. We make up just over a third of that.
Wow.
And so, it's important that legislators understand the economic consequences for bad public policy.
Well, you mentioned transportation, and that's so critical. I think we have a great transportation system right now, but we're built for 8.5 million people. What was your projection in the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, we will pretty much double by then. We have a great council of governments. They do an excellent job preparing us, particularly for the infrastructure, particularly for mobility. We just partnered with the council of governments, and still in the process of doing so, to update our region's long-term plan called North Texas 2050. That plan is around 13 years old today.
Wow.
And so many of the leaders who were involved in that plan have either retired, they passed away, they moved on. And so what we're doing is educating new leaders today about three critical imperatives. One is infrastructure, including water, big issue this next session. Water, future water supply, mobility, included transit, first mile, last mile issues for workforce. Second would be healthcare, and including trauma services, to make sure that as our region grows, high growth over in Denton and Collin, Kaufman counties, making sure that we have trauma care facilities, level 1 and 2, in those high growth areas. And third is education, and probably our most critical issue in Texas, and that is workforce. Companies continue to move here because we have a highly skilled, trained workforce. We have to make sure that our public education systems, both PK through 12 and higher education, have the resources they need to train the employees for jobs of the future that our companies need.
Yes. And if you recognize Chris Wallace, it's not just because there's another Chris Wallace on television. Right. Chris is on TV all the time. We found a clip. I think you were interviewed by Spectrum recently on an issue. You're really the person that the media comes to when they want one voice for a whole region. I mean, they could obviously go to the mayors of Dallas or Fort Worth. But you have this kind of unbiased, this is what's happening in North Texas. Talk a little bit about being a voice of the region.
Absolutely. Regionalism is what makes us thrive here. Yes, every community has to have their own autonomy, their own identity. They compete. That's a spirit of free enterprise. That's a healthy competition.
Sure.
But we have to look at a regional perspective because we share many systems, transportation systems, healthcare systems, education systems. Somebody lives in one city, in a different county, different school district.
Yes.
And so, and most employees, residents of North Texas, they travel to shop, they travel for education, they travel for work, they live in one place, they work elsewhere. They don't really understand the jurisdictional boundaries like our elected officials and city officials do. That's important. But we have to think regionalism here. Whether it is recruiting a large economic development prospect, whether it is recruiting a large sports event, a huge economic impact for the region, whether it's dealing with a worldwide pandemic, making sure that as much as we can, all of the county judges are on the same page until the governor came out with his executive order on closing or not critical infrastructure facilities.
Yes.
So we had those businesses working with those judges to make sure that the judges understood that businesses are practicing safe space and taking care of their employees and already had procedures in place. And that's just one example. And so regionalism and an organization like the Commission does help unify both public and private sectors.
Well, we've got some video from our library that we're going to put up of just drone footage over Dallas and Fort Worth and Arlington. Talk about what is special about Dallas-Fort Worth that's different than any other region in the country.
It is, everything from cultural to business opportunities, jobs. People move here because of work. People come here for work events. They fall in love with it. They stay over from their business travel to shop, to visit our great museums, our sporting events. And then they go back home and realize, that's something that we need to look at in terms of moving here. It's a great cost of living. It's a low regulatory environment considering other types of markets across the country. And it's easy access. You can be on the West Coast and East Coast and be back in your home on American Airlines that very same day.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time maybe 50 years ago where Dallas was considered flyover territory. There was this kind of like New York and LA and there's nothing in the middle.
We're just going to connect through there, right?
Right. But Dallas has really been on the world stage through the Super Bowl and these big sporting events. And I mean, people now know that DFW is a thing.
Absolutely. And more so, the World Cup is going to bring a lot of worldwide attention to our region. Our region is very busy preparing for that moment. And we have a lot of very smart, wise people who are at the table making sure that we're going to promote all the great assets of North Texas during that time.
Okay, we're almost out of time, Chris. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
We have to think beyond just our own communities. Our communities are important, and we all unify together for the good of the region. But if we're going to continue to maintain our economic competitiveness and really compete for economic development, for tourism, for housing, all of the challenges, issues of workforce, et cetera, of our region, we have to collaborate together.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for your firm hand on the wheel, and we appreciate you so much. We're going to leave you with the website, which is ntc-dfw.org. The great Chris Wallace. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.